All right, we are here at my tiny traveling worm bin, and this worm bin has been on an absolute adventure. It went on its first airplane ride, it stayed in an RV, and we went to the Grand Canyon in Zion National Park with our worm bin. Now, as you may be able to see, there's kind of a slope going downwards, and that's because when we went through security at the airport, this was in kind of a reusable grocery bag, and it had a couple of things on top of it, and the TSA agent knocked it over on its side in order to try and fit it in the machine, and that was kind of a disaster. So that was a lesson learned, but luckily nothing spilled out. And ironically, as it went through the machine, they flagged it, and all they did was lift up the lid and kind of peek inside, and they're like, oh, good to go. So I guess worms are no problem for TSA, but you also want to check with your airline, and I scoured their website and didn't see anything about not taking worms. So yeah, these worms had no problem flying both to Las Vegas International Airport and back to Tampa International Airport. And as I dig in, I'm seeing some really good fat worms. And that's because last time we continued with our ping pong feeding and we fed them a big lettuce stalk, an avocado shell filled with strawberry tops, and a cucumber slice, along with a tomato. And then finally we topped it off with a toilet paper roll and some napkins, and of course amendments. And I think that was on this side. So let's go ahead and dig under here. Now that was almost 4 months ago, but in the meantime, I've been giving them just a little bit of scraps on this side. And then when we went to the RV park in Zion, it was filled with Airstreams, and this little tiny worm bin got to prove that you can easily fit it in an RV if you want to have something to compost your scraps and wasted paper products. So yeah, I'm not seeing anything under here except for some avocado shell, which is expected, and this right here. This is a leaf from our trip up to the Blue Ridge Mountains in Georgia, and it looks like even though I kind of broke it up, it is still there. So these leaves are taking a very long time. And the moisture here is fantastic, even though I haven't been giving it a lot of food at all. And as you can see, they ate down most of the cardboard. In fact, I don't really see any shredded cardboard, and just these long-term foods are in here. So the plan for this bin is we are going to kind of set it up so that we can get a migration going, because as you know, last time we counted it out, we said that was the absolute last time. So what we're going to do is just kind of try and get the worms over here, and then I'll weigh them to kind of get an estimate of how many worms are in here. But let's go ahead and look all around and see what the rest of the bin looks like and see how the worms are spread out, or if they're just concentrated over here. But look at the size of these. I'm really impressed, and these are all red wigglers. So as I go over here, I want to let you know kind of what this worm bin has been through. So after the plane ride, we stopped at some places in Las Vegas, and then we drove over to the west rim of the Grand Canyon. So that was kind of a bucket list for me and the executive producer. So that was pretty exciting to be able to go to the Grand Canyon. And then we came back so that we could stay in Zion National Park. And check this out right here. This looks like maybe some napkin material or some kind of paper product. Maybe it's a paper towel that they still haven't got to. And this just kind of goes to show why I don't really like to use too much of that, because it kind of gets matted down. I think the worms would have taken care of it if it wasn't so matted down. So let's see if there's anything else over here. Now, one of the things we did in Zion National Park was we hiked Angel's Landing, and it's a little bit notorious because there have been 17 people that have fallen off their just steep cliffs there over the course of the last 70 years or so. But it's got some crazy amazing switchbacks, so definitely some cardio there. And then the last part, you know, you don't have to go on it, but it's about a half mile out, half mile back of just absolutely steep cliffs and amazing hikes. But there's some poles and chains to help you so that you don't fall down. Things are looking good over here. Just those little pieces of napkin or paper towel is all I'm seeing. So I will attempt to kind of gather them up, because we are going to put the section over here where the worms are going to go for our migration. So let me just kind of bury this up over here and pick out some of these things, and we'll be good to go. The other thing I want to kind of try and find while we're in here is some cinnamon sticks. And last time we were in here, they kind of were darker and looked more moist, but they hadn't lost any of their structure. So I'm going to just spend another few seconds here looking for them. And if we don't find them, no big deal. I'm sure as we're doing the migration over the next couple of videos, we will see them eventually, if they haven't already gotten broken down. Oh, here we go, right here. This looks like it's the cinnamon stick. It is still kind of strong in structure, and I'm just gonna kind of scoop it out. Some worms in there, but that's just probably because the castings got matted down. We still have a few mites walking around right there, but you know what? This is not going to break down very fast. And as I kind of broke it in half there, you can see there's still some dry area. That brighter red part, that looks like it's still dry, so it hasn't gotten soaked all the way through. But nonetheless, we are gonna keep going with this. I think that's enough digging around in here, so what I think I'm going to do is kind of set it up and try and move a lot of the castings over here, and hopefully the worms will kind of make their way over here. And the very last thing that we fed this bin was some s'mores. We went to Zion with some amazing friends from our days in the Air Force, and we all sat around at the campfire after our days of hiking and enjoyed s'mores, and we decided that the leftovers got to go to the worms, so that was fun. We got some marshmallows and some graham crackers and chocolate in there, as well as some strawberries and bananas. And I just appreciate all our friends that met up with us and helped us to celebrate some milestone birthdays. So there we go. We've got our area set up right here. So this little contraption might be familiar to a lot of you, and that's because I know so many of us are huge fans of AV and his worm channel, and he kind of does this, kind of taught us how to make something like this to just kind of separate the castings from the food that we're going to feed in here. And I consider him to be the godfather of worm farming on YouTube. I love his videos. I've learned so much from him. He is just absolutely incredible. So we appreciate AV, and I'm going to give kind of this migration method that you do a try. And I think I'm going to make it just a little bit smaller. We may expand as we go, but I just don't want to overfeed the bin and just kind of get too much food over here. So I think that's a good setup like that. And as always, we're going to start with some fresh bedding, and that wasn't very graceful. And then here's the food that we're going to give them. We've got a great banana here, and that is definitely a worm favorite. And then we've got some strawberries, and then we have some stuff from my garden. This right here is a yellow squash, and you can see got some caterpillar damage, and there's one right there frozen in the axe. So little vengeance on that. We're going to let the worms eat it. And then same thing here. We've got a cucumber, and I think right inside there you can see a frozen caterpillar. That'll go there, and a little bit of kale and some more cucumber.
You're mean. You froze caterpillars.
And then to kind of bury it, I'm going to put all those food scraps, and actually not food scraps, but rather carbon and paper and, well, I guess some food scraps. We're going to put that right on top. And then we'll go in with some amendments. This is just some expired oatmeal that we got from our pantry and ground it up in our Magic Bullet blender. And then we always like to feed our used coffee grounds to our worms, just another food source for them. And because it's so small, they can get to it really well. And then finally some eggshell grit for them to use in their gizzards, and they really like this. It's pretty amazing how quickly they go through it. All right, so finally I'm just gonna kind of top it off here with some napkins and a bit of paper towel that we had. I think what I'm gonna do too is just kind of push it over to here. This is the first time I've tried this migration method, and the goal is to probably come in here every 10 days or so and just see how many worms we have in here and see how many end up over on this side. And what we'll probably do is just take whatever's here, whatever food and worm ball and mass that is over here, and then we'll just restart this bin. I'll harvest this out, and in we go with another worm bin. And this worm bin usually only has about 1,000 worms at the end of each session. Doesn't matter if I start with 400, 5 months later there'll be 1,000. If I start with 1,000, 5 months later there'll still be 1,000 in here. So the carrying capacity of this kind of shoebox size worm bin is 1,000 worms. And as we put this plastic wrap over here to keep it moist, just a quick shout out to my great friend Chris Lanier and his amazing photography. He is a lifelong friend and huge friend of the channel and of both the executive producer and I. In fact, he was the officiator at my retirement from the Air Force. And his wife Jenny has been an absolute blessing to us as well. So I hope this kind of shows you that you can do anything with a worm bin this tiny. You can take it on a plane, you can bring it in an RV. I've showed you in the past, you can take it in a college dorm. So if you just kind of have that itch to do away with your food scraps in a way that actually benefits your garden, you can do it on the road. So I hope you're having a great day. I hope your worm bins are doing fantastic. So happy vermicomposting, everybody. Take care now.